Welcome to Garden Valley Church Podcasts. We are so looking forward to having you join us today.
Welcome to Wow, Look at Us Now podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Onslager.
And I'm Michael Onslager.
What's up, guys? It's M&R. As you would know after, 24 episodes? Is this the 24th?
It's the 23rd episode.
No, 24, 25,
This
26.
is the 24th, but it's been 23 episodes. 24?
Oh, okay.
25 to 6.
Whatever. Anyways, this week we're talking about it's okay to not be okay.
Just don't camp there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like we should just say it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to listen to it to, get the wisdom, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, it's okay to not be okay, people, okay?
It's okay to
Okay,
not be
okay.
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 For real, though. And why would you think that, though? It's okay to not be okay.
What do you mean, why would I think that?
Okay, I'll just tell you why I think that.
Sounds good.
What do you mean? That's not even a question. I'm just tired of people pretending to be okay when they're not. Not that you have to. There's times.
I don't quite like that statement.
No, I don't think that. I'm not saying that you. This is like a hard. Okay, back and forth.
There's some people pretending that they're totally fine. Yeah, and I get
there's
that.
times.
But there's some people that don't feel comfortable enough sharing that part of their world, I guess.
Well, they don't have to necessarily say what's exactly going on. But just the general, like, how's it going? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of over it, to be honest. Like, I hate that, like, normal thing. I'm like, that's so not genuine, and that's, like...
I do that.
Yeah, and I don't like it. Well, I'm not saying about you, but I just, like, in general, like, if not unless you're actually asking, like, hey, how's it going?
I feel like that's just a normal thing, though.
But just saying, how's it going?
Like, that's just the normal
But why are you
part of,
responding like that? Like, no, I don't like it.
Like,
It's
that's
so not
the
genuine.
normal, like, hey, how's it going? Cool, how's work? Right on. And that's
But
it.
that's pointless, and that's why I don't like it. Like, I'm like, this is pointless. Let's not talk at all then, if that's what we're gonna do. But I think that it's okay to not be okay. You just don't camp there. And, like, don't stew in it and don't sit. But I think it's okay to feel the feelings and emotions of what is to come. Because if you just keep pretending and being like, oh, encouragement, even though you're feeling this way. And that is a good way to get out of it, which it is a mindset, for sure. And I think that's a positive thing, and that's what you should do. But I think there's also times to, like, be able to process things and be okay with not...
You have to deal with it.
Yeah, but you have to... Yeah, exactly.
There comes a point where you have to deal with the stuff you're going through.
Yeah, it's going to eventually, if you don't deal with it and you keep putting it, like, shoving it and putting it under a rug, it's never going to get dealt with. And it's just kind of also, because if you can't, like, let others in on it, then it's like you're hiding behind this mask. And I think there's appropriate people that you can tell that to. But when you, like, act like you never struggle with anything and you're perfect and, I don't know, you have highlight real life, I guess, that's what I don't like.
For me, it's like, I'll tell people, like, sometimes I'll be like, things are going. It could be better or whatever. But I don't always go into detail. But I do, like, say, like, it's going,
Ooh, man.
making it kind of thing. So, like, that's being real in a way, because it's, like, without saying, because I don't like going to people and just be like, and then feeling like, oh, it sucks, this, then this, or life is this, and that, like, to every single person. I don't like that. I'm not built that way.
Oh, yeah, you
just share.
You don't have to, but then...
But I get being real to the point of, like, it's, I've seen better days kind of thing,
Well, I didn't say that. If I'm really going through something, I might not say the details, but I actually probably say how I really feel. Like, because I don't know, it bothers me for some reason. So I'll really be like, oh, it's going good. Or just like you said, like, oh, it's been a whirlwind or something like that. But I love, actually, I made a note on this, on what I said, and because I'm always way better, honestly. When I'm like by myself, I have time to think and process it. So like this podcast kind of thing is out of my comfort zone because I'm really probably not going to say too much of what I really want to say. What? No, like I can just say it, but for me, like sitting there and thinking about it, more comes to life. So I feel like I have a lot more
Oh.
wisdom than what I really share and like all this stuff because
I was like, you've
it
never had a
doesn't come to
problem.
my.
I was like, you've never had a problem sharing what you feel. And I was so confused. But I get what you're saying. Like, you forget about stuff until
Yeah.
you sit down and process this. That's
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, is that you forget about stuff.
If I'm on the fly,
Yeah.
then you're not gonna get as
Copy.
maybe good of answers.
Like, that's the whole point of this podcast, is like to tell people how you really feel. And you're like, I don't like telling people, or I can't tell people what I really feel.
Well,
I'm
if
like,
you've
what?
listened to all these, you'll really know that
I
I'm
was so
fine with
confused
saying
at first.
what
was
I
like,
feel
what?
clearly. But I made a note and said you need to let yourself process what you need to feel so that you can heal. Woo!
That rhymes.
Yeah, I know, and I just read that again. That's why I was like, oh, I'm gonna say that. You
Say it again.
Shoot, now I lost my spot. You don't need to put this mask on for others acting like you got it all together at all times, but let yourself process what you need to feel so that you can heal.
Oh, that's good.
Our Rochelle Stockton, Rochelle Onsager, or whatever, is what you can write. That's a meme. I'm not a meme. What is this called?
Quote?
A quote? That's what it is. Now this is a meme.
That's a meme.
And that's why I said, you gotta do. And then right after that, saying it's okay to doubt or be hurt or angry, just don't sit in it for too long and stew on it. You got to deal with the pain to get the gain. Yo.
I literally don't know where you're reading off of.
Well, that's fine.
I was trying to follow, but I can't.
But that's why I love the Bible, because there's so many stories where people went through the hardest things in their life. Like they weren't okay and they actually talked about it, like Job. You know the story of Job?
Yeah. I know.
You want to fill us in, and other people might not. Just a short little bit. Like basically,
Job had a great life. He went through some stuff, lost everything in his life.
like literally
Kids.
to his family, like lost
Kids,
his family.
belongings, everything. And
Didn't he like shave his head and lay on the ground naked? Or was it a different person? Like he like shaved his head like I
so
think I'm just
there's
I'm
a
mixing
he
stories.
did like a grieving process, and he clothed himself in sackcloth and like threw ashes over himself. But
Well,
you're getting way too deep
I was
into
like,
it.
I thought he was like
You're getting way too far into it
Is
for
this a
the
story?
podcast.
No, it's not. It's the we're talking about real
Did
life
he
things.
shave his head? I think you're thinking of Britney Spears
No, someone
going
did
through a
something.
midlife crisis.
Stop pretending. There's got to be other Bible stories that maybe I'm mixing together. I mean, I also want to do a sackcloth. I mean, if I want to be comfortable, it's gonna be sweat.
It's
for
not.
Sure.
But
I'm
you're not
lay
gonna.
on-
You're not
I'm
gonna be
lay on there.
comfortable. It's like
Yeah, I'm gonna be comfortable.
it's a ritual. Like, I don't know the whole premise behind it, but they would clothe themselves in sackcloth and like cover themselves in like ashes because they were like, yeah,
For me.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm not-
honestly,
I'm
I don't
not
know.
well-
I wouldn't want to be Job, but that's all I'm gonna say. Well, I mean, afterwards, maybe.
yeah.
I have,
Out of
actually.
everyone, Job had every excuse to.
And like
not be
basically,
okay.
it was like him whining, and then his friends going back and forth, and it was just like a really long, drawn out thing to where I'm like, okay, I'm done.
You say it.
I can't handle
You say it like it. You're like, oh, he's whining, but then like the things we deal with in life, we're like, oh, this isn't fair.
No, I know. I'm saying like
What
has
he went
every
through was
right
like
to.
legit stuff.
No, but I meant like with his friends back and forth in the
Yeah.
Bible and that part. It's like so long and drawn out that I'm like, okay,
And his wife-
you're camping there.
His wife being like, curse God to die. Like, whoa, slow down, lady.
Okay, I keep getting so many. I want to say it's like Lot's wife, but that's a totally different story.
Yeah, that's a totally different
She
story.
turned him around and turned into salt. She's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
Now you're
too.
crossing stuff.
Okay, no, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the Bible. You know, we do what we want with this, okay? So, was there a time in your life that you told someone you were okay when you definitely weren't, but you didn't want to tell them because you were embarrassed?
Yeah.
Okay, then give me an example.
I am. I mean, I
right now?
already told my like suicide story or whatever before on a different episode, but that was definitely a time where I didn't share things. Like nobody knew about it for about 4 years, and it's just stuff like that where like I was going through rough times and I didn't share. People knew
I think you
or
should
had an
talk.
idea. Maybe
I was gonna say, I
something
think
was
you
going on.
should talk about it anyways, even if we've talked about the suicide stuff. I think
No, it's such a long story, and I've already
It's
talked
not.
about it. They can go back to the episode and watch it.
It's probably
we're just
mental
talking.
health.
We're just talking about not being okay, and in that time, I definitely wasn't okay, and I didn't talk about it. And then, of course, a lot of things, and even to this day, I try to talk about things, even if I don't really want to. But I still catch myself not talking or sharing things.
So
But I was definitely embarrassed in that moment of wanting to commit suicide, because it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, it gets a bad rap until it actually happens.
because they say they were just looking for attention.
Yeah, so it gets a really bad rap until like you hear like, oh, my friend or this person killed themselves.
Like actually did
Yeah,
it.
so I was super embarrassed to talk about it, that I wanted to do it, that I had those thoughts, that I, yada, yada. Because it was one of those things where it's like, well, nobody's going to believe me. I'm just going to get made fun of. So that's why I kind of kept it to myself.
And maybe that's because you didn't want to deal with it as well, though. Like, it kind of brings on, like, if you tell someone, it like, brings on more stuff. Like, maybe people, because people are going to be worried
Yeah.
about you, but is that how you know that someone's dealing with stuff? Because you never know. When I hear about suicide stories, it's literally ones that, not always, like, sometimes. But
You know those-
you'll be ones that you're like, what?
You know those dumb videos, and they're not dumb, but
Yeah.
to a point they are kind of dumb, when they're like, oh, make sure you check on your happy friends, because they're the ones that are, and it's true though. The reason why I say it's kind of like a dumb video is because they kind of play it up, or they do, when in reality it's just like, just check on your friends. Check on the friends that don't share things, that are just always happy, that are always putting on this facade of like, oh no, everything's great. Like, not being able to acknowledge that you're not okay is one of the signs of potential suicide or potential mental illness and bad mental health. Yeah,
And
because it's so easy to get stuck in that part and not, because I don't want to play the victim. I don't like playing the victim in things. I feel like, yeah, I don't like it, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like sharing stuff, is because I don't want to make people feel like I'm trying to play this victim card, because really,
But a lot of people struggle with it, though. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that you can relate on, and that's something that you went through.
But
Because
that's-
yours is a crazy story.
but
It's not just like a.
But that's what I'm saying though, is like, talk to
I
those
get it,
people,
yeah.
because they're not going to really want to be the ones to stand out or step up and say stuff because of those reasons. Like, they don't want to play the victim, they don't want to be the center of attention, they don't want to, they're embarrassed to talk about it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you didn't tell someone just because.
Well, that, and I really liked shooting, and I liked my guns. I liked my privileges. At 14, I had my own gun next to my bedside. Like, I was trusted.
I liked my privileges.
It's true though. And I didn't want those taken away too. Like, it was a moment
Yeah.
where it was like,
I didn't even think about.
because it was
that.
like an encounter, like with God. So I knew. Then after that, I was like, okay, like, I'm definitely not going to do this. Like, no matter how hard life gets, like, I know there's a plan for me. So then, for me, it was like, I was like, okay, like, God's got me. Like, even though this sucks and it's hard, and I'm still having to deal with the emotional side of the junk. Because the minute you open up that door, it's hard. Like, people will then be like, oh, are you okay? And and then I knew my parents wouldn't let me do anything with any weapons. I wouldn't be able to go shooting. I wouldn't be able to have like knives in my room, which I get, but I was at that point where I was like, well, they already didn't know about it, so I might as well do what I want.
They might trust you a little bit more with it if you would have told them the experience you had though with God, because that completely changed your life.
Parents and their kids, man.
I would take it away for sure.
If
but
Braxton did that, you'd be like, okay, you don't get anything.
Duh.
we'd have
But who
the
knows?
plastic.
Some parents are different. Some
We'd have
parents...
plastic knives in the house. We'd never have a regular knife again.
Okay, that's really far. I don't like the knife one. Ooh, I can't imagine.
Okay.
Do you think it gave you trauma though? Like from you doing, because I never have experienced it, suicide, or like tried to really. Like I always knew, like I had a thought before of it, but I never was like, oh, that's never gonna happen. I'm a pansy. That is never. I am never gonna do that. Because I know that's kind of like a permanent decision. Like me, like going far, being like, this is literally it. And maybe when you get so done, but I'm like, you can never back out of it. Like, like this is done. There's a good chance you're either going to heaven or you're going to hell.
That's how I
Like
but
that
with,
is
with,
why it stopped me. I
with
was
that
like,
with that kind of thing. I've taken that kind of attitude, not into the things of like life. Like, let's say it's like, for example, a roller coaster. Like you can't even think about it. You just have to get in line and do it, kind of thing. Like even if you're scared of it.
hang on.
Yeah. So, and I'm that type of person where it's like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, like let's just do it. Like I can't sit and stew on it.
Yeah.
And that's how I was in that moment. I don't know. It's changed. It's definitely opened up my mind to a lot of things. Like I'm not afraid to die, if that makes sense. Because I know that God has a plan for me, and I don't know. When you make peace with yourself in that area, everything else in life, like later on, like I worry about like finances, bills, before we were married, like a wife, yada yada yada. But I never worried about living or dying, in that sense.
Oh, I always did. I had a major fear of dying.
After that incident, like I never. Like, I just cared, like, okay, what's my life going to be like? What's this and this? What's this? But I never cared about, like, I never feared dying after that. Because I was like, well,
Yeah.
when you already reason within your mind, like, you're going to take your own life kind of thing, you've defeated one of the scariest people in your life is your own self, Being able to trust yourself, being able to know yourself, being able to, like, that's a huge, huge thing. So, I'm afraid of suffering. No, that is true. Like, if I was to be tortured, oh yeah, I'd be so afraid, because I don't think I would.
Well, I'm not afraid of dying now because I know where I'm going.
Yeah, but as far as like that goes, like I wouldn't say that's trauma though. Like in answer to your question, I don't know if that's trauma or not, but it really doesn't
Do you
matter.
think it messed with you in like maybe a negative way as well too? Like, did you ever have nightmares or PTSD from doing that kind of stuff? Like because I feel like to get that spot in your head, like it's to like legit actually go through with it. That's such a scary, like my mind can't even fathom it. That's what I'm like saying, because it's like completely, it's like this whole nother mindset to really go that far to do it, because you can have thoughts of it, because I have and I knew, but I've always had this like hope, and I also was scared of going to hell because I didn't know God in the time, so I was like, I don't want to do that because I definitely don't want to suffer for eternity, because that's way worse than where we're at right now. So,
So I would say to stay on subject, it's okay to not be okay. Just don't camp there. I would say as far as this goes, like God uses everything that was meant for evil for good, right? Mm-hmm. There's a crappy situation where, obviously like, yeah, I tried to kill myself, wanted to kill myself, that kind of thing. But I think it made me more at peace with seeing that kind of stuff, because later on I went to do volunteer firefighting, got to see some vehicle crashes and got to witness some stuff. And now I'm in another first responding job where officers are generally the first ones on the scene during a suicide, or generally on the scene. So like being able to be I wouldn't say at peace, because that's never something that you're just peaceful about. But being able to experience that stuff without, I guess, with the proper tools to not have it affect you as much, and to be able to deal with it.
yeah.
I got to the point where I was like dealing with that suicide, like I just had to deal with it. Like this happened, like this was something you want to do. This is like, own it and then move on. And like seeing stuff, and that's going to be with everything in life. Like when you see stuff, when you experience stuff, like own it, see it for what it is, understand that it sucks. In one of my notes here, it wasn't, because we were writing down questions and stuff, I put this down because it's not a question, but it says acknowledge the pain. acknowledge that it hurts. Because
Yeah.
that's what led me to my desire, or like want to commit suicide, is I wasn't acknowledging that I was hurting. Like, yeah, it hurts and you obviously feel that pain, but I wasn't taking the time to grieve and to be like, wow, this hurts and I don't want to deal with this kind of thing. Like, I wasn't accepting the fact that I was feeling pain. Like, you just do what you can until you can't anymore.
Yeah.
So if you acknowledge, and this could be even if it's not pain, even if it's stuff like you screwed up, like, acknowledge it. See it for what it is. Acknowledge it when somebody hurts you. Acknowledge it. Like, because we can't get past things. Like, you could say, oh, no, we're good. Everything's fine. Like, let's say there's something between. Like, no, everything's fine. But if I'm not choosing to be like, acknowledge the pain, or acknowledge this sucks, or acknowledge that we just went through something, and I just sweep it under the rug, and you don't deal with it, then it's just going to sit there and fester and fester and fester.
It's going to get bigger.
So if you take it right then for what it is, acknowledge it, get it cleared and cleaned up, and then move on, it's going to help in the long run. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's a big
But I think that's
bulk
I
of
think
it
that's
to
why
heal.
people say, "Oh no, I'm good." You good? Oh yeah, no, I'm fine.
Well, also,
Because
okay, well,
they're not acknowledging.
Okay, and in the this might even sound bad, but like in the Christian world, in the church world, people will like just like if you're having. Obviously, there's times where you definitely need to be encouraged and you need to have your mindset. You need someone to speak life over you, speak into you, so you can change your mindset so you don't camp there. But there is also times where I feel like that if you instantly feel this way, it's kind of like, no, that's bad. Don't feel that way. Don't feel that way. And I'm like, no. Like you definitely do need to feel the pain and let it process.
You have to acknowledge
so then,
it.
yeah, acknowledge it. So when you process it, that there can be healing to it.
Yeah.
Because if you keep staying busy and going from one next to the other, like same with like when people break up.
Yeah.
If you keep going from man to man to man to man, you're literally bringing from whatever was in the relationship from the very beginning and in yourself to the next, and you're just keeping yourself busy and like masking this and hiding and covering this pain. But you really need to deal with it. You really need to heal with it. Like with me, I kept going through these cycles. And when I realized, okay, I need to slow down here. I need to take a year of just God time to acknowledge the pain and process it and heal what needs to be healed in myself. Because if I don't get healing, it's just going to be in a cycle again. Like this is, I feel like it's almost like the easiest information, but it's like the hardest to accept because I have so many like, friends and
It's the easiest to
people,
understand, but it's the hardest to put into words.
Yeah, to actually do it, it sucks. And I know people that have that are way older, like 50s, 60s, whatever it is, and they're like, no, I don't want to even I don't even want to bring that subject up. Like, I'm good with shoving it down. I'm like, no, obviously there's something going on in you. There's the root issue all the way down, and it's made all these tree limbs and all these fingers, and it's growing everywhere. I could say it's even like a cancer. Starts with this small thing, and then it starts growing and getting all around everywhere, parts of your body that you can no longer stop because it's out of control. Yeah, I don't know.
One of the things that comes with the acknowledging, whether it be pain or frustration, emotions, acknowledging how you feel. I also take into consideration, let's say we have an argument, or maybe there's some feelings that, we haven't had an argument, but we're just having these feelings because of a certain situation or whatever. There'll be times where I will be like, no, I need to acknowledge that I am frustrated. And I'll be talking about, I'm like, I'm frustrated. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why right now, or maybe I do have an idea why. But then I'll be like, okay, God, is this a righteous anger? Am I justified in what I'm feeling? Because you got to also see, okay, is it just because I'm in a mood? Is it just because I felt I got stab in the back? Is it, and see from the, like we've talked about, perspective and people's points of view and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's not what they meant to do. So yeah, acknowledge that you're frustrated, but then take a second, and because when you acknowledge your emotions and then you see if you're justified and you see you work that out, then you come to the conclusion like, they didn't even mean it like that. So it's no worries. And then you work through that a lot faster.
It's like starting to find the root. That's why I love counseling. The root of it all. Is because there's a root in every single one of us. There's some kind of root. So like, why am I getting triggered? Why is this happening? I always like to go back to be like, okay, why did that bother me so much? Yeah. Let's take this part away. Let's go back one step. Okay, maybe it wasn't that. Let's take this away. Let's go back one step. And sometimes you can start seeing how it goes all the way down so deep inside that you literally had never healed or dealt with.
Because you camped there.
Yeah, because you camped there too long and stewed on it. When really I could have been like, I'm going to handle this, but that's why there's so much growth afterwards. Then it ends up being good fruit, and, I feel like I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over because it's just hard.
It is so hard to bring those emotions and feelings out in the air. So how do you get past that fear and struggle of shoving those feelings down?
How do I get that past the fear and struggle?
Yeah, so like people that have a hard time saying, like when they're like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine, and don't acknowledge things or don't share things or don't bring those to the light. How do you, in those times of weakness where you just don't want to deal with it and you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to, how do you get past eventually, like?
Just saying that, like, how I really feel. By just doing it. Like, really, for real. It's like pushing myself, like knowing, like, so if I ever not want to do something and I like actually like it really, like, I hate it and it bugs me or whatever, it's like out of my comfort zone, that's when it like comes in and being like, Rochelle, like, this is something you don't want to do. There could be a blessing on the other side of this, or this could be everything you wanted on the other side of this fear. So just do it and get over it. And then you realize, like,
that's fine.
Yeah, when it's not that bad. Maybe, and I actually am one to, depending on the situation, I could definitely make it a lot worse than what it is. Like getting shots. I'll tell you right now, I will get a tattoo. I will even get, like, piercing the skin. I'll get a piercing before I want to get a shot. And I have no idea why. I think it's honest. There's probably some root trauma of when I was a kid and hated getting shots. But I, like, cannot get myself. Like, I just do not want a shot. I mean, I guess if I had to do it, I will do it. But when I was pregnant, I had to get a shot right above the booty. I definitely was like, I do not want to do this, but it was kind of like a life or death situation, kind of, and similar. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. But I did not like it. And it was like, okay, that one did burn. I ain't gonna lie. It burned a little bit, but I was like, wow, I just actually made this up way bigger than what it was supposed to, because I like worked myself up and let it stew there. I don't know, just honestly doing it. Like, just being like, tough it up, Rochelle. Like, you can do it. You can do hard things. And that's, like, constantly something that's came out of my mind, just being like, Rochelle, you can do hard things. And when I, like, pep talk myself into it, then I just do it. And then I'm like, wow, it was actually not that bad. And it grew myself. It started making me trust myself more, knowing that I can do things that I don't want to. And I know that there's always something usually good on the other side of it.
I just wanted to take time to the other person's side of you, to shed light on the other person's side of you when it comes to feelings and things that happen. Because I know in situations when I acknowledge something and I see if I'm justified or not, and then like things come to light, like, oh no, I have no reason to be frustrated. It was just this, or I do have reason to be frustrated. It's this and this and this, being able to understand where those things are coming from and then to move on, right? Like, the whole idea is for us to be free and to not camp there. So then let's look at it from the other person's perspective too, like them being able to move on. So like with Braxton lately, I've been trying to do, like, there was a time where I got frustrated and I told him, like, hey, I'm acknowledging this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I got frustrated. I want to move on kind of thing. And then he's done a couple things the past couple days when I've had him, and he'd lie about something or he'd purposely do something to do it, you know, just normal kid stuff. And he's like, oh no, I didn't. So for example, we were eating Romelitos, and I'm like, you can have Orange Crush, like you have lemonade, you can have Mountain Dew. Mom said no dark sodas. He was okay. Fills his cup with ice. I'm like, Mountain Dew, Orange Crush, and he puts mug root beer in there. And I looked at him and I was like,
he's so pushing your butt.
I was like, I said no mug root beer, like no dark sodas. He's like, oh, I thought you said mug. And I was like, how does Mountain Dew sound like mug? Like, in what world do they sound? And he's like, oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you lied. Let's acknowledge it. Like, you lied. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, no, let's move on. Like, we're cool. And it didn't ruin the rest of our lunch date. It didn't ruin anything. Like, being able to not camp there, even on the other person's side, you know, being like, yeah, it sucked that you purposely just disobeyed me. But let's move on. Like, we don't have to have, like, obviously there's certain things where, depending on the crime or the offense, like, you got to take more time to heal. And you got to take a little bit more time acknowledging. With that, it wasn't that big a deal. So,
which I get, and when you say on the other person's side too, I get, because like because I'm like a fixer.
Yeah.
You're like a fixer. A lot of people are like fixers. Like, I want to fix this, I want to help, I want to do something, and when you feel helpless and you can't do anything to change it, I get it that you want to be on their side and you're encouraging, because I do it too. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna encourage it and stuff. But then there like comes a time where I finally get to the point where I'm like, okay, like how I am as a person. If you're my friend, you already know, because you'll tell me the same thing over and over, and I'm going to encourage you for as long as it. And then if it's the same thing after 3 years, I'm definitely going to say, okay, I told you what you needed to know. Now it's your choice. Like, you're choosing this. So now you get a choice whether you want to do this or this. So you better buck up, or...
And like I said, depending on the offense or what's going on, that determines how long you're gonna, you know, stay in that area, or how long.
But you know what?
I'm not okay. This heat's freaking killing me.
Yeah, clearly.
I'm trying not to camp here, but I'm dying.
Oh wow, man! If they see this on the video, that's so funny. I want to say that again. What is this one? Oh, and you can say. Oh, so Bradley Stewart was here at church just last week, and we were in the prophetic class, and he said, and it like stuck with me, you can either get bitter or you can get better. I was like, that's good. That
pretty much just summed up this podcast.
That pretty much just summed up, well,
summed up this episode.
No, it kind of didn't though.
It did, pretty much.
Well, I'm just saying, because there's things that you deal with, saying like, when things happen to you, like abuse and stuff like that. Like, I honestly didn't acknowledge it. I didn't even really know what was happening when it was happening. Like, I was also younger, but like when it was happening and feeling like I was making this up and I really wasn't okay, like back then, I was a lot more different than I am right now. I'm like a completely different person, but I didn't acknowledge it as much, and I like made excuses for them and for what was going on. I was like, no, that didn't really happen. Like, that's not really what happened. Like, I wasn't like hit. I wasn't punched in the face. That's not abuse. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so me knowing that stuff wasn't okay, like this feeling, but not really, you know, knowing. I don't know. It's such a crazy like subject to think about, because I'm not trying to like say that just have like a poo party on yourself and like have everyone else do that, but I do want to, like, what gets me is like when there's times where I'm like, no, I need to feel this for a reason. Like, let's not just try to cover it up and like say, oh, I'm okay, I'm good, and then like try my hardest to get out of it. I mean, I say definitely go to God first. Like, when you're feeling all this stuff and this pain, when you're trying to go through healing, when something's going wrong, deal with it. And then,
well, it's like Jesus in the garden, like praying till he was like bleeding, like blood was coming out of like off of his head and stuff.
Wait, what?
you for real?
What story are you talking about?
Before he goes and gets crucified.
Oh, when they like hit him and stuff.
No.
Wait, what? What? Tell me. We got 5 minutes. Tell me.
He was like praying so hard to the point like,
I don't
he was
remember.
shedding blood.
Wait, maybe I did read
And
that.
he was so like stricken, like he's like, Lord, like if you can let this cup pass over me, please
How does
do.
that work? Wait, I'm confused. How you
Okay.
shed blood?
Okay.
You're praying so hard? Well, I haven't shed blood, and I've prayed real hard about some things.
But that's why he says you haven't struggled to the point of shedding blood. That's what he's telling the disciples, like because they had fallen asleep.
Okay, God.
But
okay,
this is the thing is like he chose to not. He was. It's okay to not be okay. Like he was not feeling okay in that moment, but he chose to not camp there.
You can struggle forward.
Yeah.
Oh, struggle forward.
Okay, that's it for this episode.
Okay, well, I just
I
used
need to
your
go
word
downstairs for like two minutes.
to wipe down everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring something back up to clean this table because it's bad.
Take it away, honey.
Okay.
You know the drill.
Yeah. Jesus, we thank you for providing us with emotions and with hearts that you've given us and how we've been molded to be like you, Lord. But help us to be good stewards of those emotions and good stewards of the hearts that you've given us. Help us to not camp in the places of just despair and hurt and anger and pain. And Lord, help us to be able to move on the way you've moved on, Lord. Help us to forgive and not be bitter. Help us to keep pressing forward and fighting the good fight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Man.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're interested in checking out more of our podcasts as they come available, please download our app in your device's app store or check us out on your podcast platform at Garden Valley Church. We look forward to seeing you next time.